All right, welcome back, everybody. Here we are, part 2 for our sunset descent and approach into Scottsdale. We are 42 minutes into this flight. I'm going to have a bit of a dilemma, and that is that live weather, actual real-time live weather in Scottsdale, Arizona, shows the winds out of the southwest. The sim on the setup page showed the winds out of the northeast, so thus I selected an approach for runway 4, runway 03 Zulu, RNAV approach. So I thought, well, maybe I should approach the opposite runway instead. So I went over to procedure page, and here, take a look. And I thought, well, maybe instead of approach RNAV 3 Zulu, I should pick RNAV 21. And I did do that. But then I'm looking at the prevailing winds up here aloft. They're 29 knots from the northwest. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that the winds will be from the northwest down at the airport, but it's a source of frustration for me because, I'd like to land without any crazy tailwinds, because that can complicate your life. We're 66 miles out. At 60 miles out, we'd want to be at 18,000 feet. But remember, this airport's elevation is 1,510. So we'll figure that into our computation. Set our minimums. They're different depending on our approach runway. It's 1829 for runway 3. So for now, go ahead and enter that. For runway 21, they are 1948. But I guess for now, I'm just going to stick with the original plan, because the fact is that real-time weather, and you see what it is, we fly over Sky Harbor. Airplanes, now this raises an interesting question, because you can see an airplane is on final into Sky Harbor towards the west, which suggests the prevailing winds are coming from the west. Okay, I'll tell you what we're going to do. You'll be here front row seat for this little change. We'll switch, we'll go over to procedures. We're going to change our approach. Let's see what happens when we do this. God knows. To the RNAV 21. Load and activate. Uh-oh. Disregard. You see what we're doing now? We're turning around in some goofy approach. I see this still doesn't work. Let's reload 3 Zulu. Let's see if we get it back. Okay, we got it sort of back. Oh, Jesus. Now we got all sorts of problems. Okay, so we're going to sync our heading bug. That's what you get for trying to be to work with the sim. Lesson learned. All right, let's start slowing. We're going to have to handle this with the heading bug. Luckily, 3008 was below 18,000. We'll sync. I'm going to have my hands full here. Hey, 3008. What do you know? Perfect. I'm going to have my hands full here. Big time, putting it mildly. We're 50 miles out. We're at 17,000 feet. Ideally, we'd be at 15,000 feet, so that's fine given the airport elevation. Continue slowing. On the other hand, now that I'm no longer wedded to some pre-programmed GPS, I can keep an eye on the wind here. Try to follow this track here. It's frustrating that you can't change your approach once you get anywhere in the vicinity of your airport without it start acting crazy. So I guess we're just going to find out. Right now the winds are still from the north, which would suggest that runway 4 is the appropriate, runway 3 is the appropriate landing, arriving runway, whatever you want to call it. So we're just going to keep a sharp eye on things. Landed at Scottsdale before. There is some terrain to keep a very sharp eye out on. Trying to use the heading control knob to just stay on this track. It's okay though. You gotta deal with curveballs. You gotta deal with curveballs. 44 miles out. 13,800 feet. That's one part of this approach that's gone well, and that is our altitude management. At 40 miles out, you want to be at 12,000 feet. As I said, we're at 13.2, but remember the 1,500 foot airport elevation. Descending at 1,500 feet per minute, 260 knots. Coming up to Furman, F-R-M-A-N, right here, at which point we'll make a right turn. No longer any reliable nav information on the FMS, regrettably. But we can still handle it. Make that right turn at Furman. Keeping a handle on things. We're going to slow us down as we approach 10,000. Is that 240?
Landing gear.
Ignore him. Good. Weather's perfect for this kind of experiment. That's another advantage. I mean, there's still sunlight. We're going to have sunlight for another few minutes. Enough to navigate by anyway, just visually. So there's something to be said for that, at least. I'd be a lot more nervous doing something like this in a blizzard. I'll tell you that much. Switch, since this is broken, apparently. We'll go ahead and do direct to. And we'll just do KSDL. If I can get, there we go. KSDL. Enter. Activate. Okay, so at least now we got vectors. There, you see? This is at least telling us which direction. And the airplanes are clearly landing at towards the west. Oh, God, you know, the only problem with this little... Continue slowing. 30 miles out. We'll be at 9,000 feet. We're at 9,600. Perfect. Man, I'm going to have my hands full on this one, friends. Flying blind. FPL. Oh, brother. Approach. Is it load and activate? Oh, boy. Okay, good. This is good. I'll try to explain what I just did. I realized it wasn't good for me to do direct to KSDL because then I lost any point of reference on the multifunction display. So at least this way it gives me a kind of an idea about where to fly as opposed to just kind of guessing or having to do it completely visually. 28 miles out. Let's start slowing even more.
Landing gear. Landing gear. Landing gear.
Set 200 knots.
Landing gear. Landing
Deploy
gear.
the speed brakes.
Landing gear.
Bring the auto throttle up.
Landing gear.
That's better. Let's get those landing lights on while we have a tiny bit of free time. Man, oh man, is this going to be tense. Start shallowing out our descent rate. Jimin. Let me just pull up the plate. Thank God for ForeFlight. RNAV. Come on, dude. I'm sorry, I've got my hands full here like crazy. RNAV approach for plates for KSDL. RNAV approach, runway 2, no, sorry, runway, RNAV Zulu, runway 03 Zulu. Okay, we gotta make a right turn. I see now. Thank God for ForeFlight. Slow even more.
Landing gear. Landing gear.
Go ahead and do one notch of flaps.
Landing gear.
Sorry, I got my hands full here. This is tricky because of the sim. Let's do another notch of flaps.
Landing gear.
20 miles out, 7,300 feet. That's fine. Don't lose orientation. Keep your bearings. Here's the runway. See it? I think it is. See, this is what I mean. I'm using this, see, to keep my bearings. Kind of dead reckoning. I'm mistaken. That was not the runway. Let's put our gear down. No, it's too soon to put our gear down. I'm sorry. I think our airport's over here. Whew. Man, this is ugly. I'm just having to do this. Oh shit. Please don't tell me that's the runway. Oh, it is. I got bad ForeFlight data. It's showing me 23 miles out. I'm not 23 miles out. Okay, well, here's what we're going to do then, friends. You got to witness a real shit show. We are going to do a full 360 to bleed off altitude. You know what? I think the lesson here is don't ever mess around in sim with anything as it relates to navigation. It just doesn't work. It's too buggy. I'll do a 360 right now. I don't know if you can tell what's going on here. Let me just continue making this 360. See, what we're doing here is we're going to go like this and bleed off that altitude. There was no way for me to descend towards that runway. This guy right here appears to be landing. Oh man, this is really a hot mess. But we're going to make it work. I'm determined to make this work. We're going to make this work. We're going to will it to work. How can I really would like to land on the right runway. It appears as though 03 is the correct runway based on the prevailing winds that I'm seeing. So we're bleeding off altitude here. I'm going to continue that turn left base now. If I can get this goddamn thing to work. Yeah, my ForeFlight app must be operating off the previous flight plan because it's showing me 23 miles. And again, it's not 23 miles from the airport, it's 23 miles left on the route that it thought we were flying. Well, I learned my lesson. I'm not going to even try to do anything adventurous when it comes to making this thing work. I'm going to set adjust our heading to the runway heading, which the approach course for this runway is 032. So we'll set 052 just to approach it from we'll set 062 to approach at a 30-degree angle. Now we're at a much more reasonable altitude. Now I just got to look for that airport. There it is, you see? Okay, so we'll autopilot and we'll disconnect the auto throttle. Put down the gear. trim us. I'm having to fight this stick a little more than I should. I want to get a sink rate alert. I do have poppies. There it is. Just as I expected. Full flaps. Well, it's not always pretty, but it's perfect. It is a perfect day for a perfect night for this kind of experimentation. Since the weather's good. Almost stalled. Holy mackerel. See what you get when you're distracted by news. Okay. Whew. If I'd heard that stall warning, I would have really freaked out. Ended up with a 2-knot tailwind at the end of the day. Damn it. One of these days, they're going to fix some of these bugs. There's a white on the poppy.
500.
So stressful. Gears down, confirmed. And the poppies never did turn white. Jesus. Come on, plant it on those 1,000-foot markers. Okay, or not. Reverse thrusters. Spoilers are up. Alright. Ugly, but landing itself wasn't terrible. Alright. Well, like I said, I never edit these things. I could edit them to make them look pretty, but it just doesn't seem right. There's a left turn. There we go. Okay. Alright, sunset landing. If there ever was one. Okay. Let's go outside, let's clean up our plane. She's a little rattled, like all of us these days. Bringing those spoilers. Bringing the flaps. Stop the timer. Hour. Okay. And lights. Yeah, you know what? I really wanted to be able to make adjustments to my flight plan in flight. And man, forget it. It was just a mess. That would have been a real heart stopper if we'd had any kind of weather or... I mean, we've got familiarity with the area. That really helps too. Come on, God damn it, turn. You know, because well, look at the weather, first of all. I mean, could it be better? That definitely helps. But, whew, can you imagine if this had been in IMC? Oh, jeez. It would have been a hot mess. Okay, just a half mile to parking. Welcome to Scottsdale. Local time, 5:47. Yeah, we were closing in on the airport, and I caught visual of it, and I'm like, oh no, we're way too high. So we did that little 360 just to bleed off some altitude. Well, it's not always pretty, friends. You know, I could have just stuck to the original plan, and I would have had all my navigational information input, and I would have captured the glide path on the RNAV, and blah, 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 blah. But, you know, you want to experiment a little bit with this stuff. In theory, you should be able to, but I learned my lesson. From now on, I'm not doing anything other than what the flight plan is on the setup page. Let's see if we get flashlight assistance today. I think this, if memory serves, this is where we parked last time. Yeah, I've landed in Scottsdale in the Longitude. Okay, little right turn. Little left turn. It's really curious how the prevailing winds are so inconsistent with real weather. I mean, literally the complete opposite direction. It makes it tricky to pick your arrival runway, you know? Alright, there's our parking space off there to the right. Make our U-turn. Try to dodge the planes that are in our way. And I can see them in the dusk. And the car, apparently. Sorry. And this car. Gotta love this game. They got me playing bumper cars with other vehicles and airplanes on the tarmac. Seems legit. And take it with a grain of salt. No game's perfect. Okay, we're gonna have to go right through this Piper, it appears, because the AI on this game is so good. Sorry. It's a twin, actually. Well, I see our flashlight, guys, so I'm trying to be positive. Yep, I see you, pal. Still want me to go in this? Okay. Alright. Well, you know, it's fitting. Because like the day, that was a hot mess. Today, January 6th. Alright. Well, I guess the bottom line is we're safe in Scottsdale. That really does need to be your primary goal, without some completely insane, you know, ridiculous landing, you know, where you're zooming in. I mean, it was vaguely plausible, at least from a maneuvering standpoint and from an aviation, from the limits of the vehicle, of the aircraft. It's not like we descended at 7,000 feet per minute or did anything crazy that would have stressed the airframe. All right. And it doesn't drop to the logbook screen. You gotta love it. Let's see. Is there anything I can do to make it drop to the logbook screen? Generators. APU generator. Electrical. Turn off left main. No. There we go. Killing all power to the airplane. Anyway, came in at 57 minutes, 25 seconds. Qualified as a day landing. All right. Well, anyway, thanks for joining us. Welcome to Scottsdale.